Number 13, Liam Stocker. Now, we are filming this on the 7th of January. And as it stands, we know that Stocks has, he's had an injury, a syndesmosis injury. Costa, I feel like the fans just want to get, 22 games of Liam, because I think we all kind of know what he's got. We saw him for the first time, really, in 2021. He played a little bit in 2019, a couple of games. Obviously had the layoff in 2020, looked after himself, took some time off away from the game and got his headspace right. Ambassador for mental health, and I think he does a fantastic job. He's a real favorite of the fans, I sense.
Yeah, 100%. And he's a favorite of the fans for a reason. It's not for nothing. When he's on that field, he plays for the jumper. He plays for his teammates. He plays with that ferociousness, that bit of edge that you can't teach to a player. And us as Carlton fans, we gravitate towards that so hugely. That's been our entire history, really. Just those players with a bit of edge around them who hit players hard, who play with intent. And that's something you just love to see from like a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old. That's incredible for me. You can't teach that. And he's had it from day one as soon as he's gotten to the club. And just everything you hear from him through the media, through his interviews with the club, he just says all the right things, and he's not media trained, saying that at the same time. Like his end of season interview for me was incredible listening to him talk. He was just saying it wasn't a great season for the club, but it was a great season for me because I was able to play consistent footy for the team, and that's all I've ever wanted. I mean, that's just a player that you want to do well, and I'm so excited to see him back when he comes back from his injury. I think he's got such a bright future at that club.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've loved his story from the beginning. I'm big on, understanding that we in Australia are not the only people in the world, and we can sometimes get caught in our bubble. He's obviously experienced the first 7 or 10 years of his life overseas where he was living. He's just got this intelligence about him, but it's crazy because he seems to have everything ticked off in a really fascinating way. He's got the intelligence. He's got the brains. He can speak for himself. He speaks on serious issues. Then you look at the way he plays footy, tough, competitive, plays, for the jumper, makes his teammates around him tougher in a funny way, even though he's so young. He's got leadership. And then you look at him in the way he interacts with the fans. And I'm not sure if you follow him on Twitch or if you watch his streams, like he streams games. He's got a Discord. He really just understands where we are at as a sport and as an industry, not just in the AFL, but as a world, world athletes, and the digitization of the fans that we talk about a lot on the channel. He just gets it, and I think that's probably why it was such a, I guess, sad news for us that he had hurt the ankle, because we want him to do so well. I think everyone loves Liam Stocker. I can't really see any reason why anyone wouldn't love him. He's just, and I think he knows that, but he still is so humble. And I think, the silver lining is that, okay, yes, there's a syndesmosis injury, but he had done a ton of work before that. There's a 3-week block where every player was off anyway. I think he'll be back on his feet sooner than what we think anyway. And look, we're in a season where COVID's affected. We need a deep list. By round 5, 6, 7, there's no reason why he won't be back to his absolute best. And that might be a point in the year where we start getting some random injuries and, things happen. And I think it's better that it happened now rather than it happened, start of the season and we miss him for the rest of the year. Yes, it's not ideal. You obviously want to have a full preseason, but I think the way he plays and his competitiveness, I think by the time he gets back in the side, we won't even be talking about the time that he missed.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to think about it. He's pretty much spent a year doing a preseason. I think that was having a conversation with a friend the other day. He wasn't playing VFL. He wasn't playing AFL. He was literally just concentrating on his fitness and getting his body right. So I don't think he's behind the 8 ball. I don't think he's behind the mark when it comes to this season. I think when he comes back, he's going to hit the ground running. I mean, that's what we're hoping anyways. And honestly, I'm so excited to see what he's going to do. I really want to see him push into that midfield. That's where I see Liam's future. I think within the next 3 to 4 years, I want him to be a consistent midfielder with Walsh and Chera. I think that he's got it. I think that he's got the skills. He's got the inside 50 work. He's got the tackling. He's got that ferociousness, that bit of edge. I just think he's honestly, he could be the perfect player. I mean, he could be anything, this kid. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's going to be a fan favorite for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. I mean, the attitude that he has about, yeah, he probably wants to be a midfielder at some point in his career, but you would never know. I mean, he just says, I just want to play. And I think the one of the more important things is he played 17 games in 2021, which is massive because he obviously didn't play in 2020. He spoke openly about just wanting to earn the respect of his teammates and just being out there and, played in the back line. We fans kind of questioned it a bit. Let's be honest. We sort of said, why is he playing there? It was good of Luke Power, I should say, to come onto the channel and really just explain it. Like, hey, this is what happens with young players. Yep, a lot of these, midfielders that we draft, they either have a stint up forward or a stint down back. It's part of their development. For Liam to get that defensive side of his game down pat. So, in 5-6 years when he may very well be in that midfield, I think he's going to be great. I think we just get too short-sighted at times. We just want them all in at their peak and let him go. Like we see Sam Walsh, obviously you don't put him in the back line, but he's the exception to the rule because of how good he is. But I do think that the journey of Stocks will be worth it in the end.
100%. I think, like you said, we can be so impatient as fans with players. But it is crucial for his development because there wasn't really a spot in that midfield for him when he came back. I mean, he hadn't played for 2 years pretty much.
Yeah.
Like he had never played in the AFL. A couple of games at the start there, but he'd played backline. So it was important for him to come back into that backline. And I don't think he'll push into the midfield this year or anything like that. Maybe rotate throughout, but he won't earn a starting spot. But I just think that everything that goes on in the next couple of years will just add to his development as a player. And that's so exciting because we can afford that patience now. We don't need a Sam Walsh to come in and light up the midfield. We've got the midfield set now. So he'll have to earn his spot whenever that comes. And his work at the back line, let's not get it twisted. He's a good defender. I mean, I don't want him playing on Charlie Cameron or Tom Papley, to be honest. I want that to be Lockie Plowman's role. I don't think he's a lockdown defender as such, but he's a competent defender. He's reliable back there. He gives a good kick out, which is really important. I mean, how many times have we seen as a Carlton fan them just banging the footy towards the wing, going out for a deliberate or just turning it over? He's a really reliable kick out of that 50, which is such an important role in the team. His goal against Collingwood, I think it was last year, when he's running down the 50 and kicking at Adam Sard, he's got everything of a rebound defender, even though we don't see him being there in the long term, which just shows a player that dedicates himself to his role no matter what, which is something that's really impressive for a young player because you can see those egos building. But like you said, I've watched his Twitch a couple times and I've witnessed what he does in the media, and he's just a phenomenal character, and we're so lucky to have him at the club.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Like, we need a 21-year-old in this side so we can be tougher because that's just what he brings. And I think there's like this notion, like, good players, no matter where you play them, they find a way to impact. And I think he really started to show that as the season went on and he got his confidence. And I think at some point I'm not sure exactly which game it was, but there was just a certain point in the season where the legs were beneath him. He started getting a bit more comfortable at the level. And that's why I think it's important in season 2022 that we get him back on the park and we see the best of him, because I think he's got that confidence in his ability. I think most of them do. But until you do it, you haven't done it. So I think we saw a big chunk of it in 21. I think 22 at the end of the year, I just want to kind of just be saying, like, did he get 5-10% better? And then who knows, maybe 23, 24, we start having the conversation of, all right, maybe he can start having spurts in the midfield. We know Cripps is our inside bull. We've got a few options there now. Kennedy, Hewitt. I think Stocker is another one that will become that midfield inside presence for us. And until then, we just, we sit back and we enjoy the ride, because before you know it, they've already played 7 seasons and you're just like, where's the time gone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. Like you said before, if a player goes down or gets hit by an opposition player, Stocker's going to be the first one in his face pulling his jumper.
Yeah.
Like, he's just got that. He bleeds for the jumper. He bleeds for his teammates. 100%. I think this season, just that 5 to 10% better. That's exactly what I've got written down on my notes. But 5 to 10% better. Just show a little bit of improvement. Show that you're developing naturally each week in, week out, and then the time will come for him where he's going to get that spot in the midfield, or he's going to at least have a go at it. And I don't think that he's the type of person to let that opportunity go. So
yeah,
Yeah, I think he's a hardworking young man, and we're so lucky to have him again.
Yeah, no, love it, love it. What about you guys at home? What are your expectations of stocks in 2022, if any? Let us know what you think in the comments.